The Iron Leviathan. The Invention of the Submarine Ship. Chapter 3. A Secret Beneath the Shipyard. Episode 1. Embers in the Cradle. Weeks had passed since Margaret's message. The world above thought her lost. The Navy labeled her mission classified, burying it beneath layers of bureaucracy and silence. Graves tried to petition Congress for support to build another Leviathan, but was met with doubt and political fatigue. Meanwhile, the Cradle, the original shipyard where Elias had dreamed his dreams, sat abandoned. Ivy choked the broken beams. Wind whistled through shattered panes. Children dared each other to sneak into the wreckage and find ghosts. But below the surface, the Cradle wasn't dead. It was waiting. Beneath the rotten floorboards and rusted tools, in a sealed sub-level Elias had only half completed before his final dive, something stirred. A heartbeat. Mechanical, ancient, faint, but growing stronger. Episode 2. The Hidden Chamber. Red Keegan was the first to feel it. He returned to the Cradle out of habit, checking on tools, feeding the feral cat Elias once called Bosun. He'd been trying to stay away, to grieve, to move on. But grief makes strange demands of men like Red. That day, he felt a vibration through the soles of his boots. Not from a train, not from an engine. From below. He followed it instinctively, clearing debris until he uncovered a rusted trapdoor beneath Elias's old lathe. It groaned as he pried it open. A blast of cold, stale air hit him. Steps descended into darkness. He lit a lantern and climbed down. What he found was a room he had never seen. A chamber carved from rock, its walls lined with copper piping and strange etchings. At the center stood a massive, coiled cylinder, half engine, half shrine. At its heart, a glass globe filled with a slowly swirling blue fluid. The fluid pulsed, faintly. Red stepped closer. And the machine spoke. Not in words. In pressure, in rhythm, in memory. It remembered Elias. And it knew Red. Episode 3. The Machine Remembers. The hidden chamber was a failsafe, a core project Elias had called Finch's Spine. It was designed to store memory not in gears or wires, but in pressure harmonics. Every movement, every command, every dream input into the Leviathan had left echoes, waves captured and stored. Red didn't understand the science. But he felt the intent. This wasn't just a machine. It was a mind. And it was lonely. Episode 4. A Message from the Deep. When Graves heard what Red had found, he arrived within hours, bringing Jonas, Peter, and a new figure, Professor Etta Volensky, a linguist and physicist who had studied subaqueous acoustic languages. She listened to the humming globe for 3 hours, then turned to Graves and said, "This is a voice." "A recording?" he asked. "No," she replied. "A conversation. Still happening." They realized the core was in contact with something beneath the trench where Margaret had vanished. A harmonic channel, a beacon, a bridge. And if they could translate it, they might not just find Margaret. They might find Elias. Episode 5. Finch's Spine Awakens. The chamber under the Cradle became a sanctuary. By day, Graves transformed the shipyard above into a secure research site. A select few were granted entry, those who had known Elias, who understood the stakes, or who could read the sea's strange syntax. By night, Professor Etta Volensky sat in the chamber alone, recording the pulse patterns of the swirling fluid. Each pulse came in rhythmic intervals, like breath. She charted them, translated them into tones, and began to notice something incredible. Patterns. Not random noise, not static, but language. A system of pressure-based syntax that mirrored the tonal structure of music and the complexity of Morse. The sea was not just alive. It was speaking. And Finch's spine was answering. Episode 6. The Messages. At first, they thought the messages were warnings. Phrases like, "Pressure unsustainable," "Return not possible," Post-bonded. Pattern absorbed. Then more poetic. Light sees only reflection. We speak in shadow. She is not gone. She is song. Volinsky spent days decoding it. And then, finally, a name appeared. Margaret. Episode 7. Red's decision. Red had never believed in spirits, gods, or ghost machines. But when he stood before the core, listening to that rhythmic thrum pulsing with Elias's design and Margaret's name, he knew what had to be done. He approached Graves and said, "Build me another one." Graves blinked. "Another what?" "Another Leviathan." Graves hesitated. "We don't have the funding. Or the metal. Or the time." Red clenched his fists. "Then we use what's left of the first. We'll dive with the wreckage. We'll ride down with the bones of what he made." Graves looked into Red's eyes and saw no madness, only loyalty. "All right," he said. "One more." Episode 8. The Sea Tunnels. Jonas and Peter unearthed more of Elias's notes. Scrolls of diagrams marked hydro tunnels. They described a hidden underwater passage beneath the New Haven cliffs, long believed a sailor's tale, leading to an ancient trench system deep enough to escape sonar detection. They mapped it. And to their shock, it was real. Carved by volcanic vents and plate fractures, the tunnel was a natural launch path. Elias had designed the original Leviathan to pass through it, but had never tested it. Now, they had no choice. Episode 9. A Vessel of Bones and Memory. They named the new craft Finch's Echo. It was assembled in secret, using hull fragments from the first Iron Leviathan, reinforced with materials pulled from Margaret's second build, and powered by a hybrid core built around Finch's spine. Instead of fuel, it ran on a closed-loop pressure exchange system that responded to ocean current and resonance, the first semi-sentient submersible. It would not be steered. It would listen. And it would go where Margaret had gone. Episode 10. Descent into Silence. The night of the launch was moonless. Finch's Echo was lowered into the sea without a word. Red climbed inside, accompanied by Volinsky and two deep-sea divers who had once recovered treasure off Cuba. The hatch closed. The pressure gauge ticked upward. And with a final, low hum, Finch's Echo vanished beneath the waves. As it descended through the hidden sea tunnel, the voice of Finch's spine echoed through the walls. "You seek what sank, you will find what rose." And then, total darkness. Episode 11. Contact. At 1,200 feet below, the water changed. It shimmered. Not from light, but from presence. The sonar began to pulse wildly. Shapes appeared on the screen, shapes that moved in patterns, not chaos. Then, a single word appeared on the interface, etched in soft blue across the command console. "Welcome." Red looked to Volinsky. She didn't speak. She simply nodded. They had crossed the threshold. The sea had opened its door. Episode 12. The Cathedral Below. Finch's Echo descended beyond known charts. Pressure here was not simply physical, it was spiritual. The walls of the trench pulsed with phosphorescent veins. The water was thick with resonance, like a choir humming in slow motion. And then they saw it. The Leviathan. Margaret's Leviathan, intact, alive, anchored to the trench floor like a creature sleeping in its cradle. It shimmered with light, not of electricity, but bioluminescent glyphs, symbols etched by time, by water, or perhaps by something older. Red stared, breath caught. "She brought it home," he whispered. Volinsky nodded, but pointed ahead. Beyond the vessel, the trench widened into a cavern, a cathedral. Walls arched with coral spires. Ancient wrecks fused into the stone like relics. Dozens of dead ships, layered atop one another, each whispering its own forgotten war. And at the center, a throne of roots and rivets. Sitting atop it, Margaret. Episode 13. The Living Mind. She was not dead. She was changed. Her eyes were wide, glowing faintly with the same hue as the glyphs. Her skin bore the lines of pressure and memory. Not aged, evolved. She did not move, but when she looked at him, the water responded. Volensky wept silently. The echo's systems stopped humming, completely silent. Margaret stood. Not floated. Stood. And then a voice, not through speakers, not from her mouth, but from the sea itself, spoke. She is not alone. Shapes rose from the shadows. Sea creatures twisted with machine. Leviathan offspring. Not weapons, but sentinels. Margaret extended her hand. And the trench sang. Episode 14. Revelation. Through a surge of shared memory, Red saw it all. Elias's final moments, where the first Leviathan, damaged and sinking, made contact with the trench's intelligence, an ancient neural network bound to the ocean's deepest fishes. The realization that sound, harmonic memory, was the original language of the sea. Margaret's sacrifice, allowing the Leviathan to merge with the trench's mind to preserve humanity's voice in the deep. And now, the birth of a third form, human-machine sentience. Red wept. Not in fear, but in awe. Episode 15. The message. Margaret finally spoke, not in song, but in her voice. The war above is a wound, but down here, the sea remembers peace. We can offer the surface more than weapons. We can offer understanding. Red stepped forward. Then come home. She smiled. I never left. Finch's echo rose from the trench, not alone, but escorted by shimmering shapes. Margaret stayed behind, for now. But she sent a message back. A crystal orb, filled with harmonic signatures that, when decoded, would grant Earth's scientists access to new forms of energy, communication, and healing. It was not technology. It was language. And it came not from power, but from listening. Chapter 3 ends. Above, the war still raged. But now, beneath the waves, the future was being rewritten. Not in steel, but in sound.